Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio. Today I've got another vintage quilt block for you. This one is called Strawberry Basket, and there is my sample block. Now this is based off of the quilt behind me. This quilt I made with some vintage quilt blocks that I bought at a flea market, and they are, I believe, 1920s fabrics, maybe earlier. But you know, it has a lot of the cadet blue, and then it has the morning print in it. So I did a kind of an off-white background, and then this is just a modern fabric that's in the sashing and the border right here. So I did some heirloom quilting on this with feathers and cross hatching, and did some continuous curve in the top of the basket. So this one was really fun to make. So I based this block here off of this vintage block here. Now this is a 9-inch block, but to make it simpler to put together, I drafted it into a 12-inch block, and it goes better with the other blocks that I'm making in this series. So this is my version with 1930s reproduction fabrics. So I hope you'll stay with me, and I will show you how to make this block. Okay, I have all the fabrics here that are needed for the strawberry basket block. For your A piece, you're going to need one 5-inch square, and then you're going to cut it on the diagonal to give yourself 2 triangles. B is 9 2.5-inch squares. C is 6 2.5-inch squares. For D, you'll need 3 3-inch squares, and then you'll cut those on the diagonal. And piece E is 2 pieces that are 4.5 by 9 inches, and piece F is 5-inch square. Cut that on the diagonal, and you only need 1 of those triangles. So this was left over from my sample block. So when you're doing this, you've got enough to make the base of 2 blocks. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start with the strawberry part. So that is the B and the C squares. So I'm going to lay the rest of these aside, and I'm going to go ahead and lay these out so that I don't get confused. Okay, so I have all of my pieces laid out for the top section of the block, and we're just alternating the pink with the white. And then to make the diagonal line, these are the D squares that were cut in half. So I'm just going to sew these together in rows. So I'm just going to sew all the way across like this, and then I'll sew this piece on last. And then this block is going to need to be trimmed down because these pieces are cut larger. Ideally you would need a 2 7/8 inch square that you would cut in half, but I went ahead and just cut it at 3 so that I would be able to trim it down and it would be nice and even. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing all of these in rows. Okay, I am starting with the first 2 pieces of each row, and I'm going to chain piece them together, and I'm using a 50 weight thread and a 2.0 stitch length. So those are the first 2 of the top row, and this is the second row. Okay, now I'm going to cut these apart and lay them back in their rows. And I'm not going to do any pressing or anything at this point. I'm just going to lay everything back and just continue sewing everything together. Okay, now I'm going to sew the third and fourth piece of each row. And do the same thing. I'm going to cut them apart and lay them back where they belong. Okay, now I can sew 5 and 6 of the top row together. And I'm going to add the last piece of each row. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this looks like at this point. So I'm going to take a picture of this and insert it in the video and show you what this looks like at this point, if I can get everything laid out. Okay, so now what I need to do is press these seams and then finish sewing the rows together. Now these 2 rows are complete, and these up here, these 2 need a seam, and this row needs 2 seams. So I'm going to press away from the white fabric. So we're going to work on that. So I'm going to lay all of the first row here with the pink up, and then press out. Now I need to sew the rest of these together. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing these pieces here together, and then I'll start sewing the rows together. Okay, this is the top row. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this one. This is the one with 2 seams. So I'm going to go ahead and do those 2 seams. Okay, so there is that row. Lay it back and do row 2. So row 2. And row 3, and now we're all ready. I'm going to press those seams and then we'll start sewing them into rows. Now I'm going to sew all of these rows together, and I'm going to go ahead and pin at each seam. Okay, so this is what the piece looks like at this point, and now I just need to press. You can press however you want. You can press it open, you can press to one side, whatever you want to do. I'm going to press everything to one side. And you can see there are a lot of dog ears here. We'll take care of that in just a little bit. And that last little triangle, I'm going to press that down. Okay, so here we go. So it looks pretty good. So that is the main, well, that is the top part of the basket. Now on this side, lots of dog ears, and I'm going to go ahead and trim these that are going this direction. Some of these will be trimmed off when I trim up the seam, but I'm going to go ahead and take care of those now. Okay, get rid of those scraps. And you can see there's a pretty deep seam here from point to edge, so that's why that's from the 3-inch blocks that were 3-inch squares that were cut in half, caused that seam to be that deep, but we can fix that. Okay, so I'm going to take my cutting board here and trim this down, and I just need a 1/4-inch seam allowance. So if I line up the 1/4-inch mark with the tip of each one of the squares, that will get me my 1/4-inch seam allowance. And some of it is going to be just fine, it's not going to need any work, but others of it is going to be too wide. So let's go ahead and line everything up. And I'm going to trim up to about that point. Okay. Move that out of the way. And move this down. And then finish it up. Okay. So there we go. So now this is ready to be put into the rest of the block once we get it made. So let's work on the bottom part of the basket. Okay, so here's my sample block, and this is the part we just completed, and now we need to do this part. So we have half square triangle here, and the other half of this piece is here, so that's why we did the A piece and just automatically cut it in half, because it is going to need to go up here. So let's make this part. Let's make this part first. So we're going to take the F square, or the F triangle, and one of the A triangles, and put them right sides together. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple of pins, since this is a pretty good sized triangle, and this side is on the bias, so I don't want things to shift too much. And I'm going to sew here. There we go. And then this piece is going to be pressed towards the blue. So now we have a half square triangle right there. And then I'm going to cut off the dog ears. Okay, this half square triangle needs to be 4.5 inches square. And since we started with 5-inch squares, it's a little bit large, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that down. So I'm going to just line it up with a 45-degree mark and the 4.5-inch lines on both sides, and then trim this down. So it's not a whole lot extra that I'm taking off, but it does make a difference. So that goes like that. Here's the bottom part of the block. This triangle is going to go here, and then the rectangles, the E rectangles here, will go here and here. Okay, so we've got all this open space. This is all going to be trimmed off. So I'm going to sew this half square triangle to this rectangle, this triangle to this rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of pins on the seam so that I don't get confused and sew it on the wrong side. So that one's going to go there, and this one here. Okay, and now I'm ready to sew. Okay, so let's go ahead and sew these together. Okay, so on this piece here, when you flip this open, this is what you have. Like that. It looks odd, but that's correct. So just keep going. You'll be fine. Okay, and then there's that piece. So I'm going to press, and I'm going to press towards the dark fabric on both of these so that they will nest together. Okay, so here is what we have at this point. So these two pieces need to go together. So I'm just going to fold it over, and I'm going to nest my seams together here and place a pin. And then I'm going to sew, and I'm going to go ahead and put a pin up here also. So I have an L shape. I have an L shaped piece here, and I'm going to sew from this point here all the way to the end of this piece here. So we're going to go ahead and tackle this one. Okay, ready to sew. So now we've got this. Let me back up so you can see it better. Okay, so this is what we have. And now it's time to press and then trim this piece. Okay, I am going to press out this way. So here we have this V-shaped unit here. And I'm going to get my cutting board and lay this out. Okay, so now I'm going to use my long ruler here, and I'm going to line everything up with this triangle right here, and just kind of check and make sure everything looks correct. And I can always slide this down and get down to my 45-degree mark, and this should line up pretty well, and it does. So I know this is all squared, so if I just follow the cut mark here, then I should be doing pretty good. So okay, now I can save these two pieces for something else, but there we go, we have that part done. Okay, so now I need to bring in this part, and now these two are going to fit together. Here's the center here. I want to find the center here, so I'm just going to fold that in half and match that seam and give it a little finger press. See if I can see that, and I can just barely see it, but that is right there. Right there is my finger press, and I want to turn this over and line up this point, well, this point here. Right there, I want that to line up with. So I'm just lining it up down here, and then I'm just going to slide it forward. Okay, we'll lay that there. Okay, these two seams will nest together, so I'm going to nest those. Okay, so there's a little bit of fullness there, but that'll be okay. And then I need to meet these seams together over here. Okay, so now everything is matching up. Now there's a little bit of extra fabric there, but that can be worked in, so not going to worry about that. And I believe I'm all ready to sew. So let's go see how this turns out. All right, so the last seam, let's see how this goes. See, that fullness just kind of worked itself right in. All right, now we can turn this over and see what it looks like. Actually looks pretty good. All right, so there is that seam. Let me zoom out. Okay, so there is the block, and I just need to press that seam, and then we can take a look at it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and press the seam and then press it open. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. So here is the strawberry basket block. Okay, well that is it for the strawberry basket block. This one looks a lot more complicated than what it really is. It does have a lot of pieces in it, and there are a couple of tricks to get it done, like making your pieces larger and then cutting them down. That worked really well for this block, and I hope you enjoyed it. So if you did like this video, please click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.